Greetings. Today is Wednesday, January 13th, and we'll be looking at Genesis chapter 13. In Genesis chapter 13, the ancestral narrative continues with Abram, Sarah, and his nephew Lot. Now rich because of all the trappings of Pharaoh that were afforded them when they basically gave Sarai to Pharaoh. They have livestock and silver and gold, and then Pharaoh tells them to leave, you remember. So they travel back into the land of Canaan, and they go to Negeb, and then they go to Bethel, and they apparently the famine is over, and they're rich now. So maybe it doesn't even matter if there is still a famine going on. So they get there, and they discover that this land isn't big enough for the both of us. So the nephew Lot has livestock and riches, and Abram has livestock and riches. And the promise is to Abram, not Lot. So we kind of, as the reader, we know that part of the story. Maybe Lot doesn't understand it, but Abraham knows. Abram knows, and so does God, and so does the reader. So we'd rather be Abram than Lot, but they separate because there just isn't enough to sustain, and the people that were herding their livestock weren't getting along with each other. So they were just becoming different tribes, I think. And so Lot looks around, and he looks down at the Jordan River Valley, and he says, "Ooh, that looks good. It's similar to Egypt." So he goes in that direction towards the Jordan. And then Abram is left there by himself. And God says to Abram, "Look north, look south, look east and west. In every direction, as far as you can see, this is the land I will give to you." And it reminds me of the scene in The Lion King, the animated feature by Disney, where the Mufasa, the king, is showing Simba all the kingdom. And he says, "Look, this is our kingdom, Simba. Everything the light touches. This is what we're responsible for. Everything that the light touches." And so then God says something strange. The Lord says to Abram, "I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth." What? So then in the biblical narrative, the words of the Lord are clarified. If you could count the dust, and I'm assuming this means like the grains of sand, perhaps. The dust there is sand. If you could count the dust, then you could count your offspring. So it was funny because in other places in the Bible, you read things and you're like, what does that mean? But in this place, God clarifies what God said. Your offspring will be like the dust. Yeah, like there's tiny little grains of dust everywhere. If you could count the tiny little grains, that's how many offspring you're gonna have. That's what I meant. It's sort of a clarification of this type that this phrasing that God uses, the Lord uses in this part. Your offspring will be like dust. And we haven't got to any like pushback on Abram's part yet. He does not so good with the Sarai part, but everything else he's like, okay, God, I looked, I see it all. And the land that Lot inhabits has not yet been destroyed by God, but that's coming. So foreshadowing. But this is Genesis chapter 13. This is what happens. They return to the land of Canaan from Egypt, and they separate, and they make their mark in this world, still living there with the Canaanites and the Perizzites, or maybe just the Perizzites. Anyway, there's another group besides the Canaanites living there, as well as Abram and his flocks and family, and then Lot and his people. So we'll see what happens tomorrow in chapter 14. God bless you.